And, well, actually, it probably works better in landscape than portrait. As we all know, we don't take that video that are all in portrait. But can I do anything to make it a little bit nicer? Let's throw something behind the camera to tilt it a bit more forward. I'll move myself a bit closer. See if that works. Works a little bit better. No. And trying to adjust the camera. Always a pain. Always a pain. Alright. So let's get talking about the channel. So I know some of you people follow me. Lord knows why. I'm joking, of course. I love all you guys, especially you, Hetero, and you, Adam. Thank you very much for being my loyal followers. Now, you may be wondering where all the content is. Well, recently, and I mean like literally the end of September, I got a promotion to full-timer at my job, which required me to move to a new location. Unfortunately, I went from having a 45-minute commute, which was a 10-minute walk from the to the train station, and a 10-minute walk away from the train station to the job, plus 16 minutes on the train itself, to 3 hours. That's a 10-minute walk to the train, then about 20 minutes on the train, then waiting about 30 minutes for a bus, then taking the bus for about an hour, then switching over to another bus, which I have to wait another 15 minutes for, and then from that bus, traveling for another 20 minutes to get to the location. And that's both ways. Morning and evening. And I went from having to pay, what was it? My one bus pass. Like my one bus pass was like $60 a month. I pay about $600 a month for my commute costs. So, yeah, my time's been severely limited. And my finances, while improved from going from part-time to full-time, got severely hampered by the commute itself. But recently, a place has opened up. That's a 10-minute walk from my job. I'll be checking them out over the next week, moving again. I love moving. Those of you who've been on my channel long enough can probably recognize where I'm living based upon the things in my background. But yes, I'll be moving again. And when I move, I'll be a 10-minute walk from work, which means I take out that entire 3-hour commute. And that's $600 commute cost. But that $600 commute cost had a secondary effect. One that I hadn't really been paying attention to because I'm kind of busy with the work. And that was that I was just short literally an entire paycheck every month. And that caused me to fall behind on some of my bills. And while I was able to keep a lot of things still going, one thing that fell behind and eventually in this last month kind of hit the wall was my internet. And they cut off my internet. And the reason I'm streaming to you right now is because I'm on my phone, and my phone has unlimited data, and that's a completely separate thing. So, yeah. So, I actually have 2 entire episodes recorded, edited, shot, all the fun stuff you need of the Elder Scrolls 5 Starfield, ready to go and upload, but I can't because I have no home internet, and my only other solution would be to try to export them to my tablet, take my tablet to work, upload them from work to YouTube. But I'm not going to be sitting at work for 2 hours uploading a video when I'm already spending 3 hours just getting there. So, yeah, that's probably going to be delayed till late February, which will be when I'm presumably moving, because I'm checking out the apartment in a couple of days, fill out the paperwork then, arrange for the move, all that fun stuff. So, yeah, I've got 2 episodes going, and I still got more footage beyond that, but the editing software I use does actually involve some internet connection stuff, and I don't have all the footage I need, and so I have enough to make, I think, about 10 episodes, to make 4 episodes. I've got 2 of them edited and in the can. I have 2 more I could tinker with, but I still need to do some stuff that requires an internet connection to finish the second review, or second video. So, yeah, that is a thing. So I can't even upload them. But if you want a more piecemeal, more short form site of things I'm doing, you of course can go over to my Instagram, Nekollx, because anyone who's followed this channel knows long enough that I'm either Cuppa LLX, like here on YouTube, or Nekollx, like on X and Bluesky. I'm on Bluesky now. Because, well, it's a very long story. Since I haven't done a channel update in a while, let's go through the basics, shall we? Let's give everyone the story, shall we? So where does LLX come from? Well, LLX was originally just LL. It's short for Lurker Lord, and you see me use the full form in a few different places. Lurker Lord derives way back to, what was it, like the 90s? In the World of Darkness, White Wolf Gaming forums. Yes, they had role-player forums, and they think they still do. They're text-based forums that are kind of, sorta, but not really live. Basically what happens is you can post to them, and other people can post to them, and when you post, it refreshes the feed, and then you can see the next batch of posts. It doesn't do live updating on the fly like a proper chat. It does updating when you yourself either choose refresh or post, and that's the only time you'll see an update. So yeah, it can get kind of chaotic, because you'll hit post to respond to something, and suddenly there'll be 12 other things that have happened since then. Anyway, I still had a ton of fun with it. I ran the Technocracy as the leader of the New World Order, the NWO, which is from Mage the Ascension. I had a couple of werewolves, a couple of vampires. A ton of fun. There's an entire role-playing group that's around it to sort of manage things, but like I said. And during those times, typically when I wasn't in character as the leader of the New World Order, the Technocracy, I tended to just lurk. I would just sit in the chats of various groups, and maybe sometimes I'd post something out of character because I'm not in character, I'm lurking. And I wasn't the only lurker. There were plenty of other people who lurked, and sometimes we just had little lurker get-togethers. And of course, the only way you could tell lurkers apart, since you could post without a username attached to it, it would just be, ::, and your text, was you could set the color of your text. I just went with basic black. And so at one point, we had this little fun sort of lurker role-play get-together thing where we all sort of picked names for ourselves. And one person made me to the punch with Lurker Lord. So, in all the pain that comes with losing your name, I handed over the keys to the Lurker Mobile and became Lurker Lord X. LLX. Years passed by, I realized LLX. Well, Lurker Lord, LL, they both have something. And I decided to give X an actual name. And so the full name became Lurker Lord X-Ray. LLX. And that's where the LLX came from. And from there, the name of the front basically became Neko, however you want to personally pronounce it. I know the proper pronunciation because I've studied Japanese, but I won't bother people with that. Except for there's this one fun phrase you could say in Japanese. Neko, which essentially means 2 cat objects, which I just find is fun. 2 cat-shaped objects. Anyway, so yeah, typically I go with Neko LX. I think everyone knows why. But the Kappa LX is actually a reference to a game that's come back recently, and I think I've done a couple of streams on it. City of Heroes. See, City of Heroes was originally an MMO, and it was a really nice MMO because City of Heroes. Let me see if I can adjust the camera a bit better. That's a bit better, isn't it? See, City of Heroes was the very first superhero MMO, and I do mean very first. It actually predates World of Warcraft. And it predates Champions Online, DC Universe Online, Marvel Universe, before they ended up killing that and becoming something else and making a few other Marvel MMOs. Champions Online was the first. They had little action figures. I still have them somewhere in my closet. I guess I'm unpacking it for a move. I'll show them off one of these days. They had their own comic books. They're over there somewhere again. I'll show them off next time. They were a thing. And they were relatively popular. In fact, they made their way up to... They were doing free content updates regularly. And so they eventually made their ways up to issue 27 when the shit hit the fan. And keep in mind, each issue was like a few months apart, so you're talking about issue 27, you're at like, say, 3 months apiece. Yeah, they've been going for a few years at that point. They had released various expansions, including City of Villains. And of course, they had their newer expansion, which was the introduction of the Mirror Universe. So yeah, City of Heroes was a big thing. But their publisher, PlayNC, it didn't fit their portfolio. You see, PlayNC was the maker of games like Guild Wars and other Korean grinders. And so, one day, out of the blue, they let the developers of City of Heroes know, you have 48 hours to kill this son of a bitch. And City of Heroes died. Not with a bang, but with a massive party in Atlas Park, the starter player area. And for years, we thought that was it. They had no time to back up anything. The game was dead. So the most that fans could do is take their client version of their copy and sort of reverse engineer the game. They've been trying to reverse engineer the game for years. The developers of it went on and made Champions Online. Well, some of them, not all of them. And basically all we had at that point on was Champions Online and DC Universe Online and Marvel, which is now dead, Champions, and DC are still alive. We've also had some others come to try and who are still trying to create City of Heroes in their own, like with Ship of Heroes and City of Titans. But yeah, the magic of City of Heroes, just no one could ever recapture it. Till more recently, but I'll get to that in a moment. But why does this tie into my Kappa designation? Well, the community manager for the City of Heroes forums, the person who was there, our sort of bridge between the devs, who also posted regularly, but officially our bridge between the community and the game, was a guy who went by the name of Kappa Joe. Well, towards the end of City of Heroes' life, which again came suddenly and randomly, so they weren't directly related, Kappa Joe moved on. And we all loved Kappa Joe. Kappa Joe was an amazing mod. So, in sort of honor of Kappa Joe, I created this alternate handle that I've been using, again, as basically the alternative to Nekollx, as Kappa LX, in honor of Kappa Joe. And that's where Kappa LX comes from. So, yeah, that's kind of how all these things kind of come together. And of course, if you've been following my Instagram, and even my X, you will notice that I've actually started going to cons. This is something I've, again, talked about behind the scenes, and sometimes a couple of times in frames on camera, of how I wanted to go to cons because everybody's fucking dying. And if I don't do it now, I'll never see anybody. So, yeah, last year, 2023, I went to my first convention at the end of November. I went to Sonic Expo. Yes, the Blue Hedgehog. The Blue Hedgehog. And it was a great time. Now, I'd been wanting to go to cons for years, but, of course, we all know the horror stories of cons. We've all seen Nostalgia Critic. We've all seen the many videos where they talk about how cons are basically full of neckbeards who never bathe. So me, of course, being constantly congested and having weird allergies, which is one of the reasons why I can't own pets anymore, is because they really fuck up my allergies. Which, is horrible. I love cats and dogs. I had this big fear what the hell the con was going to be like. And so I went to the con, a little bit worried. The flight there, a little bit chaotic. I haven't flown on a plane in over a decade. So, a lot of learning experience there. But the con was actually amazing. Even went to the costume contest there. I'll see if I can find the link. I'll dig it up of me at the Sonic Expo costume contest. And sorry, I saw a notification. Let me see if it was important. But yeah, I had a great time at Sonic Expo. I took several pictures, not as much as I probably should have, but it was my very first con. I was unsure of how comfortable people were with having the pictures taken. Like a month and a half later, I ended up going to Anime NJ, where I took a lot more pictures, but again, not as many as I should have. I was still feeling things out, but I was a lot more active as a cosplayer. Again, if you check out my Instagram, you'll see me with various other people. I've made a bunch of friends. We've all sort of gotten together on Instagram. And yeah, Anime NJ is great. And the next one I'm planning to do is in August, Power Morphicon. Yes, I will be at Power Morphicon. At least I'm hoping to. Assuming things don't go wrong. I mean, it's like 6 months away. Lots of things can go wrong in 6 months. But that's the plan. I've got a couple of new cosplay uniforms and props. I'll do if you guys are interested, I'll do a cosplay update. Just let me know in the description below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And all that fun stuff, which I hear makes the like button blink and glow. I haven't seen it. I know when you click subscribe, because I have done this, it does actually do a firework explosion, but I haven't seen it do the light up when you mention the word like and subscribe. So let me know if when I say like and subscribe, you see them light up below. I haven't seen it personally, but again, most of the channels that I follow, as soon as they post a video, I hit like. Like Internet Today. As soon as their new video, like. As soon as the Theorists post a video, like. Soon as Gopher posts a video, like. As soon as Miniature Nerd posts a video, like. So, I don't get a chance to hear the word like and then see it flash. So I'm just immediately saying, hey, I like your content. I'm poking you. Devontae the one, like. Random name drop, like. But yeah, this is sort of just a general channel update, something I don't really do all that often. I'll talk about the other things that are fun. Like I said, I know the algorithm is the bane of all of our existence, but, as I've mentioned before, I was this close to actually being monetized on this platform. And then Jake Paul happened. Jake Paul and the Suicide Forest. And yes, I will say the word because I'm not monetized, so YouTube can't demonetize me. I am set free of the strings. Yes, that's kind of been my philosophy for since then. But yeah, it is so frustrating because my channel had been around for a while. Anyone who could just look at my channel will see how old it is. And yes, just before Jake Paul, when I was still living in California, I got a notification from YouTube that I was going to get my first $100 payout ever in the life of the entire channel. But there was some glitch with the address I had on file, so I had to update my address. And so I go and update my address, it processes this, and then Jake Paul drops. So I'd already been approved for the $100, but they couldn't mail it out to me. Then Jake Paul drops, and they restructure their entire monetization model. And now suddenly I no longer qualify. And so even though I'd already been approved and all they needed was a proper address, it was gone. And I've been in that state since then. I have not been big enough to be monetized since Jake Paul. And so I basically said, well, fuck it. Since I don't have to worry about monetization at all, and I'm never going to hit the 4,000 watch minutes minimum they require to even be looked at, fuck it. And that's why I release content that's uncensored and unrestrained by the algorithm, because the only thing I care about is whether or not my content will get a copyright strike. If strikes will kill my channel. Demonetization I couldn't give a fuck about because I don't get money from my channel at all. Like, at all. So, if you demonetize a video, I am never seeing money in the first place. It means the advertisements you're already playing on my channel are going to go to, I don't know, the original person anyway. I don't know. I don't make money off my channel. Why the hell should I care about monetization? That's kind of just been my philosophy to this day. Because, yeah, YouTube don't like the small creators, and I am definitely a small creator. Rumble, on the other hand, yes, I created a Rumble. It's under the, well, it's under a couple of different names. It's a Toku Power Weekend, and it's Guile's themes. I'll dig them up and try and put them in the description when I get a chance. But, yeah, they're actually monetized. Because Rumble is a lot more forgiving with your content. And so what I put up on those channels is I have some software called Topaz, which allows you to do video scaling. And so as an experiment, I took some clips of original Power Rangers, the Green with Evil arc, and upscaled it from the original 480p to 4K 60 FPS. And my God, you have no idea how long that took to render, edit, and file size, and to upload. I understand now why companies don't just upscale everything in their library. One, you still have to keep the original, because upscaling will improve over time. Two, the file size is stupidly large, even for a 1.5-minute clip. Three, they take forever to render. Four, if you're upgrading to 60 FPS, at least the software that I use, I can up-res the video, but I can't up-res I can't keep the audio intact. So I'll denoise the video, upscale it to 4K, do frame insertion to get to 60 FPS, but it'll be completely silent. So I then have to take that into either CapCut or Premiere, whatever I'm working with at the time, pull the original show clip, put them on top of each other in the timeline, extract the audio, pair the audio with the 4K footage, then render that footage. If you're using Premiere, yeah, you have to render the footage before you actually export it. Then export the footage. Then, once I've waited like 5 hours for it to export the footage, then upload that to Rumble. Yeah, it is stupidly long. In fact, can I pull up the footage? Because I got my laptop right here. Oh, my desktop, why do I call it a laptop? Do a search for... That's Guile's theme. That's my other channel. I'm doing some fun stuff with that, but no, I'm looking for Topaz. Maybe look at the Topaz Labs. I don't know, I have to do a search. I'm not sure where exactly it is at the moment. Let's do a search. We'll just do a search for anything Topaz. I don't know. See what it finds. Oh, this Guile's theme. Yep. I have to dig it up later. I don't know where it is at the moment. But yeah, yeah, the file sizes are stupidly huge. But, I mean, they look amazing. I mean, obviously not on your phone. You want to really look at these things on like a 4K TV or something bigger than your phone. But yeah, and of course they got giant Topaz watermark because again I'm just using the test software. But yeah, I was surprised at the results. Anyway, what else is there to talk about here on our channel updates since I don't do these that often? I have posted, for those of you who do remember it, I know it's been quite a while at this point, but I was able to meet some people at the conventions who could help me in the future. The Titanium Ranger project. It's back on the menu. Technically, it's never off the menu. I never kill a project. This may go into hiatus forever, but the Titanium Ranger project is back on the menu. I've posted on them again my Instagram. If you want to check out more specifics, you can go there. Like I said, I've been more active on Instagram recently, simply because it's a lot easier to broadcast to there. But yeah, I still have the 3D model. I still have the physical one I got printed. The biggest problem I've always had with the Titanium Ranger project is my hands are not steady enough anymore that I can solder. And so, while I've done all the programming and electronics and whatnot, I can't hold a soldering iron steady enough to solder the components on. And so that's kind of killed the project dead in the water. Once I've moved and things settle and, stuff can be shipped to my address, I have some thoughts of building a prototype with a breadboard that doesn't require soldering. And of course, onto my Instagram, I mentioned how the source code is freely available. If you wanted just to ask me for it, I will send you the Arduino code for the sounds as well as for the lights. And you could go and build your own if you so desire. Because the project was never designed to make money. It was just designed there to be fun. But assuming within the next month or so, I can get that off the ground, I would love to show you guys prototype version of the Titanium Morpher because I do have other ideas I want to do with it. This is only a prototype version. I just want to get to work. And if I get to work, the next step will be to add more useful functionality. Because the entire reason of the Ranger toy projects is to take the toys as we see them in the show, recreate them with modern tech, and try to replicate them as best as possible to the show's functionality. Now, obviously, I don't have access to the morphing grid yet. But I can do other things. Like, for example, we have miniature solar panels, so I can absolutely install into the Titanium Morpher on the top absolutely install. Obviously, the new version would be shrunken down because this is way too oversized, but same basic concept. I can absolutely put solar panels in here. Will they be highly efficient? Hell no. But they will be able to collect a charge. And I can tell you from personal experience, if your overhead lights are strong enough, they will charge a solar panel because I've had them do them with my battery backup all the time. So it will be able to gain a charge. And if you're in like a convention with a thing on your wrist, It'll definitely be able to build a charge. Will it be enough to keep the battery fully charged all day? Probably not, but it will gain a charge. And the idea, of course, being that we're trying to recreate the titanium morpher. Well, a titanium morpher, unlike a lot of more modern morphers, which I know we've all complained about in the fandom, are basically just frickin' cell phones. But there's a practical use to having cell phone morphers, is that you can actually use them as a cell phone. Right? The titanium morpher doesn't give us that option because the titanium morpher is not a cell phone. But it clearly is designed to be a communicator, right? So, once I've got the solar panels installed on our lovely titanium morpher, the next step I'm looking into is, well, a couple of things. I want to put wireless charging into the back of it. So you can stick it onto a wireless charger at the end of the day and charge your morpher overnight. Because Qi chargers, in terms of the makerspace, they do exist. You can get a receiver, you can build your own receiver, and you can build your own transmitter. So I can totally put, because they're about the size of a quarter, you throw them on the back, they can transmit through the plastic, because they do it through our cell phones all the time. Just throw that in there, drop it down on any generic charger, and your morpher will be charged while you wait. But the third functionality I want to do now, when I originally started this project, there was an item on Adafruit's website that allowed you to have basically walkie-talkie tech. I can't find it anymore. I'll have to see if I can find it again. Again, if you can find it, let me know in the comments. But that's what I want to do. For the final version of the titanium morpher, what I want to do is build in a walkie-talkie, which means I have to build 2 of these things. But if I can get past the entire soldering problem or using a breadboard to do it solderless, then that won't be a big problem. It's a matter of getting the parts, putting them together, and then 3D printing 2 different shells, right? But that's the kind of the idea. Is what I want to do is have 2 of these printed, and then the next con I go after they're done, go with a friend of mine, like maybe Dragon Zeron, or maybe white-haired Dante, or any of the other new cool people I've met at the convention. Give them one titanium morpher. I'll have the other, and then periodically we just sort of call each other. Since, walkie-talkies. And of course, once the titanium morpher is complete, and those 2 versions are complete, of course, the code will always be available online for anyone who asks. Like I said, it's not something I'm doing as a product. I am not Star Wars Theories. I am not any of the other big tubers who make fan content. I'm not the hacksmith. There is no way in hell that I'm going to be mass producing these things. I'll make a handful for myself, maybe make another one to give out to, like, the actual Titanium Ranger, but that's about it. The rest will just be like, here, I've done all the research, I've done all the building, here's the STL code for the morpher, here is the Adafruit code, here is the Arduino code for the sound, here's the Arduino code for the lights, here's the Arduino code for, charging, here's the Arduino code for the walkie-talkie tech. And just let people build their own, and basically all they have to do is assemble it and have all the parts just there and just be like, because there are plenty of places, such as 3D Hubs, or even on Etsy these days, where you can just give them an STL file and they will 3D print the thing for you. So really, all you have to do is either have a 3D printer of your own, give the 3D printer to somebody who can 3D print it to you and ship it to you, and that's it. There's no real big hubbub or guff about it. I mean, after all, through 3D Hubs, I had this made years ago. So, yeah, you can just hire someone to 3D print shit for you. So, once that project is finished, I'll move on to the next one, which is SPD's Morpher. I feel I can actually do a pretty decent SPD Morpher that I'll do in space. And Tokuger. See, I'm trying to building it up with complete complexity. So, like, for example, SPD has some form of LCD screen. You can get LCD screens, TFT screens from, again, Adafruit, different vendors. So I can actually build something that has a changing screen. And having it flip open. So that's doable. It's a little bit more complex. That's kind of the point. The in space is actually a step back, but it has more buttons. So, I'm going to play around with how the Titanium Ranger Morpher works. And then after that, well, of course, anyone who knows about my OC Blecker and the various artwork I've done for them will know that they are a Tokuger. So I just kind of have to do the Applichanger X, their signature version of the Applichanger. And then from there, work on continuing to pick out various morphers and recreating them. Some will be easier than others. I mean, like, for example, look at Zoojer, the champion cubes. In their morpher configuration, they're basically just a really bulky cell phone. And cell phone tech is out there. Again, Adafruit is kind of my go-to. I know there are other ones, but this is the go-to I go to. And they have cell cards. They have cell boards. So you can build your own cell phone. You could build, if you had the engineering know how to do it, your own Champions Cube that totally functions as a cell phone that does connect to a network of your choice. It is absolutely doable by the hobbyist. So, any cell phone morpher is totally creatable. You want to do the Mobiritz, either version, regular or silver, totally doable. You want to do Zoojer, totally doable. Let's just hot button through all the different morphers, starting from MMPR. I know Sentai goes before that, but I kind of know the morphers from MMPR up to King Oger relatively well in my head. I don't really know pre-Zoo Rangers morphers that well in my head. But, like, MMPR's morpher. Alright, what are we going to do with this? Well, we really can't do much about it. The Legacy line that Hasbro and Bandai have created are pretty decent ways to do that, so I'll probably skip that. I might play around with the communicator watch. Again, it's only got so many buttons to work with. I'm wondering if I could actually build in walkie-talkie tech and a Qi wireless charger to that. It's something that's kind of on the back of my mind how possible that is. It is pretty compact. I'm not sure how viable it would be, but something I'd like to look into. I do look into these things off camera all the time. Just got to keep in the back of my mind. But yeah, I'm not sure how viable that is. So then we move on to the Doron changer from Dairanger. Because, well, I said I knew from MMPR on. I didn't say I didn't know only MMPR. I do understand Sentai. So the Doron changer, again, probably be more like the Titanium Morpher. Just make a bunch of sounds. Might be able to put a walkie-talkie into it. A lot of the early stuff is going to be around that similar tech level, you know. The same thing with, like, the Zeonizers, the Turbomorphers. None of these things really have full, like, phone capabilities. You can at most get away with a walkie-talkie tech. Let's see. In space, again, is the same. Though, interestingly, once we jump into Lightspeed, there is a full dial pad on Lightspeed and in space. They both have full dial pads, or maybe I'm confusing the two, but at least one of them has a full number pad 5, 5, 3, 3, 1, Rangers in space. That can be made into a phone. I do remember that for Lightspeed Rescue, the original toy had Tamagotchi built in, so it has a screen built into it when the panel flips out. So you could do something with the panel. I'd have to do more research and study, but I do believe that the Lightspeed, not titanium version, regular Lightspeed Morpher could theoretically be made into a phone, but it would be a very weird phone. Because if you think about the design of it, while it does have buttons and panels and whatnot, you're really not going to be able to confirm what you're doing, and even if you use a little screen to like show what number you're picking, using like the old cell phone technology where like one button represented like 3 numbers and you had to cycle through them, it would be awkward. I think it's doable. I don't know whether it'd be something I'd want to pursue. When I get to recreating the Lightspeed Morpher, I'll see how viable it is to doing cell phone tech on it. Let's see. Any other notable ones? Because you kind of just look at the morphers and kind of figure out how viable they are to make them into practical tech. You know, if they've got at least one communicator button, you can at least get walkie-talkie tech into them. If they've got a numpad, you can turn them into a cell phone. If they've got an in-universe touchscreen, you can turn it into a smartphone. Like the Tokuger Morpher, the Apply Changer, even though it's in-universe, a smartphone, if you've actually had the toy in hand, you know it's just basically a slab with 3 physical buttons that only do one thing when you press them. But again, recreated as a practical device, you could have a full touchscreen that could do the different things. But again, that's the entire point of the entire project, is recreating the functionality of the show. And yeah, so what are the ones that are worthwhile mentioning? Geki Ranger versus Jungle Fury. There's a fun one. So Geki Ranger, their changer with the gloves. And yeah, theoretically, I could probably make something like that, even make it in such a way that it could be strapped onto any glove you want. But again, you'd probably be limited to walkie-talkie tech. You know, big button here that you can press that would open a line of communication to another one. But that's probably about the limit you'll have of that. I think, though, the solar morphers have more potential. Because I have seen various people with various technical know-how being able to do, like, screens that you can read across your eye. Google Glass style stuff. I think you could incorporate that into a solar morpher. And if you could do that, then all you need to do is find a way of getting it to make a call. So I think with the solar morpher will be less a cell phone and more like the Apple Watch. And that it's a device that syncs to your phone and you can make your calls through it. Because if you watch Jungle Fury, you'd also notice that there's a little silver thing that comes down off the bottom of the solar morphers. And when they talk, it actually comes down. That's a microphone in universe. So I think the solar morphers could, in theory, be recreated as a Apple Watch, smartwatch style of thing. Any other worthwhile ones to note? I mean, Megaforce is obvious. It's the same as the Gokaider. It's straight up a phone. Heck, in one episode, Orion does takes a bunch of pictures of friggin' Emily, Samurai and Megaforce's people, all the same names, but the Pink Ranger does a fashion shoot of her. Samurai again, the shoot phones, the Samurizers, just straight up a phone. I'm trying to think of any other like notable ones across the generations, because again, you can kind of just tell by looking at them what their functionality would be in a practical device. I mean, Ninja Steel and the Ninja. The burger phone's pretty obvious. You could just make that into a phone. But the actual morphers themselves, one's the sword and one's the star. They're both weapons. Again, probably the best you could do would be a communicator. However, if we're talking specifically Ninja Steel, they had their wrist-based communicators. And those wrist-based communicators did, in some scenes, have video image. So that's just basically making a smartwatch. Which, again, given that we have TFT and whatnot tech, is totally creatable by the hobbyist. I'd have to look into the engineering of one, but if I've already done the engineering for any other previous smart device, such as the Apply Changer, or even SPD, you kind of had the work already done at that point. Let's see, any other noteworthy ones? Dino Charge didn't really have anything like that notable in the gun. And then it really used it as a communicator. Can you imagine how people would have freaked out if they took the gun, put it into their mouth, and talked into it? Or just like whispered along the side of it? Yeah, that was never going to happen. And again, a lot of the newer ones, you kind of see where I'm going. There's only so much you can do with the tech, even expanding it to logical extremes. Like King Oger, what the hell am I going to do with the King Oger sword? I mean, even in universe, it's not a communicator. In fact, ironically, a more recent Sentai series, and writer for that matter, they just have a separate cell phone. Like they at some point, the writers of these shows just gave up on making the morphers a phone. And just like said, yeah, Sento has his own phone. Yeah, his belt doesn't have a built-in phone. And yes, writers on my mind as well. So I'd want to recreate the writer tech as well. But again, some of these things are easier than others. Like for example, let's take one of the most recent seasons, Geats. Like there was this huge hubbub. A lot of people had a lot of fun. I even got one, the Vision Driver. It's got a big screen on it, right? And the screen changes, but it's not really an LCD screen. It's a dot matrix screen. It's a bunch of lines and a bunch of LEDs that light up, and they can be formed into an image. That's what happens when you talk for too long. You kill your throat. But, yeah, so a lot of the Ranger tech you wouldn't be able to do too much with, even if you were to try and do walkie-talkies, because that wouldn't really fit in universe. Maybe drive, because sometimes all you need is drive. But no, drive actually is a fun example when you think about it, because you've got the wrist device, which I believe actually has a C for call on it. I haven't looked at it in a while. There's Mr. Belt himself as a sentient AI. So there's some fun stuff you could probably do theoretically with Drive's tech. Cure Major and Boom Boonger are both very similar. Can you do anything fun with Don Brothers? No, not really. Same thing with Kaiser. I mean, when I'm building these things, definitely I think I'd be keeping in mind and it would be expandability. Like even the titanium morpher, when it finally releases, I get the final version of the tech of the shell. A big part of the plan is just to have a cutout like right here, so you could just plug right into the board and upload your own sounds or charge it, whatever. So a big part of it will be including ports on all of these devices where you could just plug them into your phone, change up the sounds in them, and whatever hell else you want to do. Because a lot of these things, there are limits and there aren't. This is the sound card. Yeah, that's the sound card for the titanium morpher. And it can support 16 megabytes. Keep that in mind. There's also a 2 megabyte version on the Adafruit site, but I prefer the 16 megabyte so it don't crush the audio that way. And yeah, it can support 16 megabytes of audio across, how many is that? 8 channels? 8 channels. So 8 distinct sounds. Now, anyone who's messed with any of Bandai's toys will know that their sounds are typically pretty limited. Even on the toys like, say, Xade, they get around the limitations of minimized sounds by having the gadgets themselves produce the sounds, and the belt itself is just sort of a glorified press the button. So, yes, there are physical limits of how many sounds you can do, but with the right programming, you could trigger multiple pins at the same time. And if two pins trigger at the same time, that triggers a different sound than if, like, say, example, 0 and 3 are triggered at the same time. This would trigger a different sound than, say, 4 and 8, or 4 and 7 were triggered. Or if you just triggered 1, or you just triggered 3. So you can get around that with creative programming, but there is still a practical limit of what you can program into a single soundboard. But there are ways around it. Plus, of course, depending on how much you want, how complex it is, you can, of course, just add in a second soundboard and get another 8 sounds. So there are ways around the more complex, wider range of things. Again, if we were to go and, say, do Xade, this is a more recent edition. I don't think it's ever been shown on the channel. But if you say you do Xade, all your sounds would be inside this thing. The belt don't do jack. The belt's a giant prism. But let's say I was going to do, well, while we're talking about Xade and Rider, let's talk about how their tech and how their sounds work. Because, of course, fans of this channel, maybe older fans, might remember the breakdowns I do of various toys, where I literally tear them apart and show you all the electronics on the inside. So I'm well versed in this shit. I take these things apart all the time to show you guys. So a lot of the better Rider toys, better being subjective, but to me they're better, is where all the electronics are in the toy, and then all you have to do, if you want to make original sounds, is make an original gimmick and give it its own electronics. For example, I don't think I have it readily accessible because, again, move and all that. Looking at Build. All of Build's sounds are in the belt, with the exception of a few things. Sparkling rabbit tank, the giant tube bottle one. It's got, if you actually look at the codes on the back, it's got a blank code, which basically tells the belt when you plug it into, don't play a sound, we're going to play our own. It's because all the electronics are inside of itself. Same thing with Crocodile Crack. It's got the electronics. Basically, it tells the belt, don't do nothing. Be quiet. And so you can do that. You can build devices, even for these seasons where all the sounds come from the belt, because in the season themselves, they invariably will have a electronics-only gimmick toy. So you can actually build them. I've mentioned this before. This is the sound card for the titanium morpher. You absolutely, using this, don't mind the side profile, those are just all the pinouts. You absolutely could use this. Just look at the size of it and tell me, do you think this thing would fit inside of, say, a full bottle? Would it fit inside of a coin, a ring, a Gaia memory? Because this is where all your sounds are coming from. That and a speaker. But a speaker is the size of a button. You stick the speaker at the bottom of the damn thing. Fires outward. But this is where all the logic lies. So this is the most important part. As long as you can get this somewhere into your gadget, you can find some place to stick a microphone. Do I have one of the speakers on me? No, I don't. But I do have. Well, that'll work actually. So the speakers are about that. Let's crossfocus. The speakers are about that big. So you can find a place for that. Plus that, you've now got your speaker. Now all you need is some way of powering it. And again, there are plenty of LCDs and whatnot, button batteries. So there's your speaker. There's your soundboard. Throw in some basic power source and yeah, I get it later. Yes. I think, based upon everything I've just told you guys, it is far, far easy, if you had the time and inclination, to pretty much make functional electronics for anything you think of. Like I said, I think it's technically big. I think this is technically a little bit bigger than a Guile memory, but you solve things like, yes, I can absolutely fit this into a Guile memory. Yes, I can absolutely fit it into pretty much any gimmick I think of. Some of them might be trickier. Like, I will admit, trying to throw these two together into like a coin. Again, you can stack them. Throw these two together into say an O's metal. Might be a bit tricky, especially considering you still want to keep it transparent so you can see the light through it. But anyone who's had an O's metal will notice you can see the NFT chip inside the center of it, which is how it transmits its signal to the device. Same thing with Wizard's rings. Wizard's rings also have embedded in them an NFT chip. And now, granted, these NFT chips are just basically a way of, they're basically the rails. They're the rails on the back here. They basically send a signal to the driver that says, "Hey, this is what I am." With Wizard, they could get enough of a residual electrical impulse just from being near the reader that they can light up, but they're not that complicated. They're doing is transmitting just enough energy that they can light up a basic LED and then say, "Hey, this is my name," and then the belt does the rest. But again, anyone who's watched these seasons will know that there's always a much bigger gimmick, like a Fang Joker memory, extreme memory. From Wizard, we had what was the biggest one they had there? There was the gauntlet that allowed you to use the 4. They really didn't upgrade very much, did they? Like, even if you were to get, say, the White Wizard driver, it actually has alternate sounds for everything in the Wizard driver, including personally one of my favorite. If you throw in Infinity, you get Almighty. And of course, if you throw some of the White Wizard stuff into the Wizard driver, you got some fun stuff like The End, Eclipse, stuff like that. Which kind of makes sense given the origins of the show. But yeah, that's kind of the state of everything. Not much else to talk about. I've told you about where the state of the channel is, and about how various projects' logic is. I will leave you with one of the things I have shown off on the Instagram, but probably, yeah, again, you've never seen it here. From a seller on Etsy. They make custom bangles for Dino Thunder. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to have to take an angle grinder to this, with maybe the help of one of my friends that I met at the con, because, ironically, the person that I ordered this from on Etsy, the one comment I kept seeing over and over again in the replies was, this is too big, this is too big, this is too big, this is too big. And so at one point, the creator added a foam insert. And of course I thought, well, if it's too big, even with the foam insert, I can find ways around that. I'm smart enough, right? Yeah, it's too small. Yeah. I'm the exception that proves the rule. And the ironic thing is I took this to Anime NJ, and I let other people try it on. And I'd say a good 70% of the people I gave this to were able to wear it with very little trouble. There were maybe 2 or 3 people out of like a dozen that couldn't. So yeah, yeah. My little purple morpher, which is tied into Blecker's story, basically just got hung around my neck, which actually kind of makes sense for Blecker, considering that the purple Dino Gem is tied to Mesagog and a very dark story. So having it as a sort of memento and sort of a temptation of power kind of makes sense. But it would have been fun to actually be able to wear it. My life and my luck. Yeah, I am not even going to try and put this on my wrist. I'm sure there's some way I could try and cram my hand through here. But if I get on my wrist, I'd never get it off. I'd have to see a doctor to have them cut it off. There's no way I'm getting this off if I actually did manage to get it on my wrist. Which is sad. I even looked at like Starlight Studios who did something similar. And yeah, theirs is small too. But maybe one of the people I've met after I've moved, I'll get in contact with them again, because they're kind of an engineer. Get them to we'll pop this thing off. We'll cut a line down here, put a hinge in, and yeah, turn into a hinged bongo, because this thing is actually made out of metal. But yeah, I'm going to have to add a hinge on this thing, which will decrease from the aesthetic, but to be fair, if I can't wear it, it really just becomes a prop at that point. Plus, I would love to be able to, after we cut this thing in half, put a little cutout that goes all the way through. Because you don't think I wouldn't start messing with stuff and adding my own theme, would you? We've really been going for over an hour, wow. Little LED there, so I can light the damn thing up. But that is the future. Anyway, I have been going for an hour for you guys. I hope some of this has been useful to you, answered some of your questions, assuaged some of your fears, crocodiled some of your cracks. Gamed you're on. Titaniumed your power. PC'd your master race. sacrificed your blood. Yes, that's what the full title is. Blood of Sacrifice. Each of them has a full title. Again, I show these things off in more detail on my Insta, but we should probably end this stream here because it has been over an hour of me rambling and giving you guys updates on numerous different things. So I hope some of this has given you some sort of insight. And Hetero, I thank you for your like. Adam, I thank you for your like. Peace out.